So the first thing I want to show you is at the end of your fishing line, you have a swivel. So you tie a swivel, and above the swivel, that little swivel, you have two sliding weights. You can use any ones, you can one use two or three, but I like about this size. You can use a little bigger, but there's a reason for the sliding weights. That way when the bait is on the bottom, when the fish grabs it, it doesn't feel the weight on it. So you cast it out, and then it's gonna be sitting on the bottom. This is gonna float up, I'm gonna show you how, but the fish doesn't feel it pulling on. So it's really important that you use these sliding weights. All right, the swivel, you wanna just get some regular fishing line. I use light test, but you want it to be about 3 feet long. Okay, so I make it a little bit longer so I can actually cut it. So I'm gonna cut a piece off and then tie it to the end of this, and then I'm gonna tie it. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tie one end of that 3-piece long of leader that I have here to the swivel. So one end of the line is gonna go right in to the swivel. I'm gonna tie a little knot in there, okay? So I have the line coming through the swivel. I leave a little extra line in there. I keep a loop in here, and I tie this around 3 times, or excuse me, 6 times. I have a problem with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, try to do this, and then 6. And once I have it 6 times around, I'm going to take this piece through here, and I'm going to take it through that top little loop. I'm going to pull it through, and it's going to just come through really nice and clean with a nice clean knot, almost like a noose. So if you can see that, I've got a tight little knot, and I'm going to snip it off. You can see this is the size of the hook I use, not very big at all. Now I'm going to tie the hook, if I can get this in here. I'm going to try to make it sort it so I've got about 3 feet of line, and it's important, I'll explain why later. About 3 feet of line there, so I'm going to leave a little extra room in here for me to tie the knot. And it's going to be the same knot that we did before. You can cut it off. So if you see that, I've got the sliding swivel, or sliding weights with the swivel, about 6 feet of line, or 3 feet of line, and this tiny little hook right at the end. So that's what it's gonna look like. And we'll go down to the dock and I'll show you how I rig it up. So here's how I rig this up. It's a very small hook. So the first thing I do is put on 2 marshmallows. This is a little challenging because it's such a small hook, but I put it through. I did a second one. I weave it through, make a bead. I've got the marshmallows kind of strung up on it, and I'm going to show you how I use that in a second. Then I take the power bait, and the important part about the power bait, I don't have a lot left here, is to really cover up the hook. So I literally take the hook, if you can see the hook in there, and surround it and make a ball. Really covering up the hook. I might add a little more power bait just to make sure I'm really getting it all covered. You can edit this down a little too. So I'm making a ball around the hook, make it tight and condensed. Then I can take the marshmallows that I've strung onto the line. You can see these marshmallows. I'm gonna push them down. Now I've got the marshmallows, adds a little color, and the power bait. Okay, out, get a good distance. Now the trick is once I let it out, I let line loose, because I want it to sink to the bottom without any pressure on it. Because there's weeds at the bottom, I want it just to sink down. Once it gets down to a certain level, I don't see any more line coming off, I tighten it, I reel up the slack, but I do it very slowly because I don't want it to pull off of the bottom. So I want it to sit resting on the bottom, and little by little, I tighten it up until it's taut. Still a little slack until it's taut, and then I've got a straight line. I just let it rest there. Let the fish take it. So it's taut enough so that if I do get a bite, I'll see a little wiggle on it. And once I see that little wiggle, I know it's hitting, but I wait till it strikes before I pull that fish up. There you go, that's the Mike Schiller setup.